Osiris links into this being the son of Saturn, Osiris being symbolic of the alchemist. The alchemist is the human being who has intelligence. The human being who has intelligence is the son of Saturn. Saturn is his father. And then the alchemist, Osiris, goes about overthrowing Saturn. I might talk about Osiris more in the next episode, so we'll kind of hold off on that. But that's what's going on there. The father and the son symbolism. And Saturn, if you're talking about the stone being the foundation of the solar temple, too. The solar temple is built out of stone. Its foundation of which is Saturn, the stone. And you also get the concept of the black sun tying into Saturn too. The midnight sun, the black sun, the sun that you see in the dark of night, being a spiritual principle. So Saturn is both the epitome of dead spiritual or dead material life, but also high spirituality too, which is odd. The ability to see the spiritual truth within the dead, the tomb of Osiris. The tomb of Osiris is the body itself, which is a dead thing because it's a physical thing, right? Coming into physical life is death, spiritual death. So the tomb of Osiris is the body. It's going to die. That's why it's seen as that, because the inevitable working of time in this material sphere makes the body dead. It's going to be dead, and it's seen as always being dead from the beginning. The outermost sphere of creation being the seventh, the number 7 is tied with Saturn. Of course, it's the 6th planet away from the sun, but in the ancient world it was seen as being the furthest away. And so it was numbered as 7. And the number 7 is important in the ordering of the alchemical metals and that and things like that. And you can interpret this as saying the ancients were stupid and they got the numbers wrong. Or you could look at it as, okay, well, there's a sequence there, and that sequence does have meaning. It may not be the precise order that the planets happen to be in from the sun, but does that even matter? It's up to you to answer that question. I don't know. I'm not going to tell you. You've got the prima materia concept of alchemy. The first prime matter of creation. This is the Saturn principle. The prime matter which itself contains opposite forces within itself. Opposite forces which are said to be in conflict. So the physical realm is one of conflict, inevitable conflict. And it's the working out of that conflict and trying to make it come to an end, which is symbolic of the great work too. It's like, how do you end this inevitable conflict of the physical reality we live in? The working out of that problem, if it even can be worked out, is that's the alchemical goal of the great work. So the darkness precedes the light here in the creation myth. And I'm going to, the sound, the vibration, the motion, time is tied in with the mystical concept of the word, the logos, the speaking aspect of the God which speaks creation into existence. Speaking, the first word. The word being the initiating force of creation itself, tied into this vibration, motion, time, Saturnine principle here. So Saturn is tied directly into the concept of the lost word, and I think I'm going to have to do a whole show on the lost word itself, but I'll just for now say that does tie in here, is this concept of the word and the lost word. And I have a lot to say on that because it's a very important principle, so perhaps we'll return to that in a later episode. But for now, I will mention that. And you'll find that actually the mnemonic memory process is connected to Saturn. This is something I've read. I forget if it's Manly P. Hall, and I've read it somewhere. Mnemonic memory is basically just memorizing things, so sort of robotically memorizing, and so it's that form of memory. That's not the only way to have memory, but that particular way to memorize things connected to Saturn. And I think of that as thinking inside a box. This would be Saturn. If Saturn, as a rough ashlar, perfected squared into a cube, that's the alchemical process, right? Well, you got a box, and the supposed perfection of matter is a box. But then if you're thinking within that box, that sort of ties back to this mnemonic memory process here, I think. And if you're only using mnemonic memory, you're not using all of your memory. It's not to say that memorization doesn't work and it doesn't have its place, but it's only one. It's not to be revered as the epitome of memorization. And putting a computer chip in your mind and becoming Johnny Mnemonic so that you just instantly, your memory just instantly pulls up any given fact, that's not true intelligence. It's just the perfection of the mnemonic memory process. Johnny Mnemonic has a computer chip in his head. Here's a note that I particularly enjoy. You'll find that Christ figures, which is the Son of the Father, is symbolized in Christ-like figures, the heroes, are brought out into the light. The sun is brought out to the light because that's what it is. It is the light. You can interpret this symbolically as that Christ figures, heroes, are given to the public out in the light of day for everybody to see. But the dark Saturn father, the first cause, the father of this character, remains concealed. So the father remains in the dark, in the shadows, never seen, never understood. But the father is the source from which the sun came, right? So we're given all these hero characters, and they're kind of like at the top of our collective mythos. Our public mythos and how we interpret the world revolves around the sun. But we have no understanding of the unseen father, which is the true cause of that sun, right? So the true origin of things, the ruler, the lawgiver, never understood by the common people. I think that's very true. I think that symbolically ties into the very dark aspects of Saturn. I think this is a reality of the world in which we live. I think that the truth is concealed. I think that oftentimes it's purposely sealed and hidden away and not brought out into obvious, into the open for on purpose. So that all ties into the Saturn principle. And you've got Saturn as the father. You've got Peter or Petra or Pater, Pater. These are all father. These are all words that mean father. And father is again, so things paternal. Tying to Saturn and the rock and things like this. You also get the Death Tarot card. So Saturn is death. He's the Reaper. So the Death Tarot card would relate to Saturn as well. And death itself can be seen as a good thing or a bad thing, depending on how you look at it. And that's how the tarot is interpreted too. As no symbol is ever just good or bad. It has different aspects to it, and that there is a time for death, right? And there's your time again. There comes a time when death needs to occur. And that's the world we live within, and coming to terms with it, coming in terms with these immutable laws that we're just not going to escape from, coming to terms with them and working within them. The dual aspect of Saturn, the darkness and the light aspect of Saturn, predominating on the dark because symbolic of the dark and the color black, that is Saturn. But within the darkness, you can see the midnight sun, right? So it's not all bad, is it? I don't think it really is, personally. But yeah, the Saturn character is so important. I hope that you enjoyed today's episode. I hope that I was coherent, because I know a lot of these concepts are very difficult to explain. So I hope that you're able to follow. I hope I wasn't too confusing. The whole time and vibration and motion and death and physicality and how all those concepts are one idea. It's just different details. All those aspects of Saturn are different details of the same thing. That's how these occult matters work, is you're just looking at little details in specific stories, in specific aspects of a given character like Saturn, and his aspect of him as time, his aspect of him as a stone, the color black. It's just working out a detail of this mysterious creation process which cannot be properly explained in equations, because at a certain point you get to the point where equations are irrelevant at the true mystery aspect of creation, the beginning and the end. And you'll find that science can do quite a few things, but it can never give you the first cause of things. It can't give you the causal factor of life itself. It can't present that to you. And I don't think it's ever going to, because science on its own is unable to do so. It's by its nature. You can do quite a few things with it, but you have to understand its limitations too. If you're to have true wisdom and knowledge and understanding, you gotta know where you can go with science and know where you should stop with it. I would say that this probably ties into the Johnny mnemonic idea, in that if you are worshiping science as a religion and see it as the ultimate way to bring about the salvation of the human race through alchemical scientific method, you are going to believe that the Johnny mnemonic scenario is evolution at its highest state, that somehow tuning the mnemonic memory to be perfecting that. You're going to see that as a highest form of evolution, putting a chip in your mind so that you just have instant database of all things, all conceivable knowledge that we know of. You just put it on a chip and then you just retrieve it as a computer does, just automatically. And there's a machine-like quality to it. That is the scientific alchemical method brought to its ultimate conclusion. If you think that's a good idea, I would tend to disagree with you, because I think it's not a well-rounded point of view of things. I think it's missing a few aspects of reality. The main aspect of reality being the mystery that is inescapable. If you put a chip in your head to supposedly make yourself smarter, if you're truly smarter, you'd start coming to these realizations, I would tend to think. So if the chip in your head actually worked, it would get you to actually contemplate existence in a very deep sense. And lo and behold, you have transhumanists saying that's what will actually happen. But inescapably, you are in control of the person who made the chip, right? So you're the dark aspect of Saturn here. You're under the control, the material control of the designer of that little device. Because that tiny little piece of physical material, because that's what it is, or that's what it would be, has total control over your mind. Or if not total control, it can change your mind in vast ways that we can't even comprehend now. So now I'm getting on a transhumanist rant here, which I just can't help but do. But I think it's important to see how the mystery tradition ties in here. But with that, I will end today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was coherent. There's more to come. I will be doing 3 more episodes up to episode 10 of the Under the Sun series here for now. some of the topics I spoke to earlier I want to get back to, so there likely will be follow-up episodes to this one. And expect more podcasts from me here at Trans Resistor Radio. Please subscribe. The website is Age of Transitions. My name is Franz. As always, I want to implore you, Seeker, seek on.